What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ergo Weekly Developer Update. This Sunday is going to be February 6th, 2022. Last week on the Developer Update, I addressed the need for mobile support and browser-based support for wallets, just because the Yoroi experience on dApps has been suboptimal, let's just say that. And we have progress that's coming from multiple projects. We're going to start with Mr. Stahlfelge. He's been building the mobile wallets, which is available on Android devices and iOS devices. He's been doing a pretty good job building them in parallel, so you have equal support cross-platform. The version 1.6, which has ErgoPay, which allows dApp interaction if the dApp supports ErgoPay, which I know developers in our ecosystem are pushing to support across their applications. That will allow you to interact with applications on the Ergo blockchain from mobile phones. So if you have an Android or an iOS and you prefer that wallet, that's in motion. It's already being beta tested. Now, one thing that beta testing does that's important to point out is it accelerates development. Now, part of the reason why it accelerates development is users kind of have their own rhythm, right? And oftentimes developers kind of walk through dApps in a way that, let's just say, is logical, right? They use applications from the perspective of a developer. So, their user experience will help them uncover bugs or issues in their build. But oftentimes getting community members to kind of run through their build, make unpredictable choices, have strange and sometimes hard to replicate errors occur, is a wonderful thing. So if you want to accelerate the adoption of a lot of the open source development that's being built on Ergo, one of the best things you can do is hop into it and break it, and then let the developer know, hey, I had an issue or an error, or perhaps there may be a part of the UI that you're looking for that is missing. So if you spot something, you point it out, it just saves the developers time from having to find that. So those of you that are helping Mr. Stahlfelge in his build, that's wonderful. I'm sure all of the wallet developers would enjoy that community support because it makes their job a little bit easier for the most part. I guess it depends on what you find and how you break it, right? So Mr. Stahlfelge is progressing with that build. We'll check in next week and see where that is. We also had an update from haileypdll. One thing to note is he's running an open beta test that's occurring in the ErgoDex Discord. So if you're willing to participate and you're on Discord, hop into ErgoDex Discord. You'll find him on a side channel. I'm sure that if you use his build, you help break it, find errors, it's just going to make his job faster. Now, from my experience, I actually have played with this. It's a pretty fast wallet. I'm really happy with how it's coming together. It's a good competitor for Yoroi. And one nice thing is today, you can use it to make swaps on the DEX. So I know there have been some frustrations lately with Yoroi, and this is a alternative that works now. Now it is still in beta, so some people may feel uncomfortable in putting any large amount at risk, and that does make sense. Please note that betas are designed to help developers find bugs. So you might not want to go in with the assumption everything is going to be working perfectly, because it's really not the intent of that part of the process. Next, we hear from Nemo. Nemo has been putting together the dApp connector for ErgoDex, and I believe most applications in the Ergo ecosystem have been working with beta testing this build. Now their dApp connector, I believe at this point, has been pushed to Google Chrome to be published on their store. Now, sometimes that happens really quickly. Sometimes it can take a couple of days. I do know that since dApp connectors interact more with the browser, there can be additional review. I do believe that Nemo's intent here is to take the build that he has and integrate Ledger, which is the next update from AnonBR. The Ledger device application has been debugged. The binding API's almost done. They've done some real world scenario testing. I do know that Captain Nemo has got that build and wants to implement it as soon as the dApp connector is published. That was going to be the next stage. I do not know where that is with Yoroi at this moment with their roadmap. The same is true with haileypdll. And it also may be true with Mr. Stahlfelge. So if you want support with Ledger on your wallet, I would recommend the developers reach out to AnonBR, and perhaps he can help you integrate that into your build. That's something that has been a long time coming. Let's say it hasn't exactly been a smooth process to get this build together, but the good news is, security for users that have Ledger devices is coming. I don't think this is going to be supported in Ledger Live. That's a whole different animal, but we will long term try to make that happen. In the short term, it will be a interactive feature from the wallet itself. We got a pretty big update from Scalahub this week regarding building AVL trees in ErgoScript. It's something that he dropped a tutorial and then an example of how to build an off-chain bank. Basically, you build an authenticated data structure, then you have that verified periodically on the blockchain. It's a very interesting build, and I think there's a ton of future potential with this setup. Now, how do you explain this to a new user, which is a bit of a challenge, honestly. I would say to some degree it creates applications that have almost like an ability to create an off-chain database that in some ways will look like a side chain. But it's not necessarily a side chain, it's just an off-chain database that periodically can verify itself on the base layer. Now, there's potentially a lot of flexibility and creativity in terms of how AVL trees can be applied in applications. That's still something that's relatively new. This off-chain bank example is one of the first, let's say, builds or tutorials that starts to explore that. That's something that Ergo does support, that offers a really broad range of unique features that could potentially be very big. It's just a green area right now in terms of development. Next, we have an update from ErgoLend. Really nice to see that participation in the weekly update. Looks like they've been working on the ErgoLend backend. The FunLend box has been successfully worked with, and they found some bugs in the repayment script that they have fixed. Looks like in the coming week, they're going to write an automated ErgoLend transaction runner against the blockchain for ErgoScript testing. They're going to fix initiation script bugs and start testing the lend box and the repayment script. So it looks like they're actually getting to the point where things are plugging together enough that people can start playing with them. That's great to see. I'm a fan of the project. It's nice to see applications that have some real world off-chain utility for people. That's not to say that appreciation in any sense of trading or crypto doesn't. It's just kind of a different intent here. So it's lovely. I hope you guys participate next week, and it's something the community can start following. Next, we hear from Luivatra from ErgoPad. I do know that ErgoPad had an AMA this week. I do believe they launched on ErgoDex this week. So there's been a lot in motion there. I do believe they do a pretty good job of putting content together for users to follow. And I think that's on Medium, at least in my experience. So if you're interested in learning more about ErgoPad and what they're doing, hop onto their Medium. They also have a Telegram channel. The developers and project manager are pretty active there, so feel free to hop on, ask questions, and learn. It looks like they're working on the staking contract. The main hurdle they're dealing with is evaluating errors in the stake state contract. This is something that I do believe Kushti has actually been assisting them with, and is pretty excited to play with code, which is usually the case. It looks like they have a working playground for any developer that wants to hop on there and take a look. Looks like this includes the operations for their off-chain code, the bootstrap, staking, emitting, compounding, unstaking, review, and converting the playground off-chain code to Python, which is pretty cool. I do believe they are pretty well adapted Python, the developers at ErgoPad. And that's nice to see. It's nice to see the off-chain code getting implemented in different languages. That way, when we have new dApps come along, they're kind of clearing the way for people that are into Python. Looks like vesting is working as intended, with tokens being released to their designated wallets on schedule. Their dashboard is starting to integrate price information from the ErgoDex API to show prices on assets such as Neta and soon ErgoPad, which I believe is already live at this point. So their dashboard should give that information. And it looks like they're working on integrating the Yoroi Nautilus dApp connector, which should also support Safe Wallet, which is what haileypdll is building. And it looks like they're also adding support for ErgoPay, which is the mobile support. Now, ErgoPay does require dApp developers to add some additional code versus the browser-based wallet. I do know that ErgoPad is obviously working on that. I believe ErgoDex has that as a short-term future plan. And I'm pretty sure that building on two chains is a juggle in and of itself, but I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Android and the iOS build, just because I'm a big fan of their cold wallet for if you have an extra mobile device laying around, which most people do. You have the ability to spin up a wallet and create a cold wallet, put the device in airplane mode, put it in your sock drawer or safe, or hide it somewhere, where you feel secure. And it kind of acts as a hardware wallet without requiring any extra purchase, which, a Ledger usually runs, $100+ I believe. And for some people, that's a lot of money. So having an alternative with similar security options is a really nice thing to see. Next, we hear from Ladopixel. ErgoTutorials.com is usually a place where I like to point new users. One thing they do a really good job of is multilingual support. Now, if you're in the Ergo community and you have no, let's say, experience or skills in development, you don't really want to take the time to play around and participate in beta, one way you can potentially contribute is through translations. That's something that, it opens entire new markets. In reality, if you have a user that only speaks Italian, well, now they can learn how to create tokens from Ergo utils and how to initiate token airdrops, I believe. So having that multilingual support is really important for global adoption. So if you're willing to take the time and support Ladopixel in his quest with Ergo tutorials to bring basic user information to new people that are joining, please do. I think Lado would be happy to have support. So that's a challenge for those of you out there that have language skills. Put them to use if you're willing. That would be great to see. Last week we covered the little learning game that he's putting together, 8 bits at Ergo. It kind of looks like a retro Game Boy game where you can run around and learn about the Ergo ecosystem. Well, it looks like now they're implementing a multiplayer mode where we may have multiple people running around in the little 8-bit world, learning about Ergo, which is great to see. I'm curious to see how that adapts and what kind of future that has, because it's a neat little project. All right, what was Kushti up to this weekend? Alex is always all over the place. Looks like with node development, 4.0.22 was released, and it looks like 4.0.23 candidate is almost finalized. He goes through the different optimizations. Looks like they have been investigating performance issues regarding memory consumption and working to improve the node. It looks like they're also working on EIP27. I know that's something that a lot of people have been waiting for more information from mining pools, and we have heard from a couple. I believe GetBlok is voting. They might be voting when this video comes out. And if that's the case, feel free to participate if you're a miner and you have the ability to represent your opinion there, which, some mining pools did, some polling in the community, but GetBlok really went out of their way to give miners a voice. So I have pretty big respect for that. I do know that I talked to Rob this week on a episode of Ergo Pulse. I'm not exactly even sure when that's coming out, but it should be good. I enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of GetBlok and what they're putting together. Now, Alex has been working on DevNet to run tests and also put together documentation. We do have a couple of pools that are not opposed to EIP27, like they haven't spoken against it. They haven't necessarily spoken too strongly in favor of it. It's more they want to see testing, they want to see documentation, they want a clearer picture, which is conservative, and honestly, it's their business to be involved in mining blocks. And so I'm sure that as we get more information curated together and delivered to them, and we also have testnet information that we can pass along, we'll get a clearer picture. I know at one point Son of a Tech reached out to me to go on his show and talk about EIP27, and I've kind of been in a holding pattern to where I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, right? I'd like to have clear information, and hopefully once this testing comes together, I'll be able to go on a show, discuss EIP27 and kind of the future of mining on the Ergo ecosystem. It looks like in other matters, Alex has been working on PRs in Sigma, and he reviewed the tutorial by Scalahub about AVL trees. Next, we hear from C8E4D2A. I hope I got that right. Looks like they've been working on ENFT, which I think stands for Ergo. Ergo NFT, where they have the ability to display all your minted tokens, build an artist profile, and look at current Ergo auctions. It's important. One thing that has been a downside to the Ergo auction house has been the amount of just fake shit that's on there, where someone will either right-click something that was created by an Ergo artist, which, in my opinion is worse because you're kind of trolling in an ecosystem that, that person actively create stuff in. And then you have kind of the rip-off where it's like, oh look, it's a Bored Ape, but it's on Ergo because somebody right-clicked and minted an NFT. So having artist profiles and being able to be linked to their current auctions is one way that artists can kind of help authenticate work. Now, we also do have a Discord channel for Ergo NFT artists. If you're an NFT artist, I would recommend you get on there and you create a channel. I would recommend you join ENFT and you set up your profile. It's just a good way to kind of create clarity, because the truth is it does kind of push away people that might be interested in NFTs. Nothing sucks more than buying something that you think is one thing and then you learn you didn't quite get what you thought you were paying for. There are solutions that are being explored. I'm sure as that progresses, we'll hear more, but that is something that I would like to see improved in the Ergo ecosystem. It's the downside to decentralization sometimes is you have to deal with having no police, right? And then it's a matter of saying, okay, well, how can we make these systems intelligent enough that we don't need police? We kind of police ourselves. And, even on Ergo Auction House, I came across a NFT where somebody right-clicked a fake one and then wrote in there, it's a scam, and made an NFT and minted it. So at least people are trying to kind of police that and warn users, because, the reality is it's just a shitty thing to do. Don't do that. Nobody's going to listen to me that's going to make fake NFTs, but might as well try, right? Next, we hear from Morphic. He merged some PRs towards version 5.0. That's been in the works for months now, and it's a pretty big upgrade in terms of performance. He did write an article, and we're actually going to try to pass that to the editorial team so they can make it a little bit simpler for the end user. It was one of those things where Morphic would do better writing it for a high level paper on it, right? But then the audience that's going to be interested in digesting that level of information is a lot smaller, let's say, than the average user. And he was kind of in the middle and was a little apprehensive, do I kind of build this out for more high level people that will understand the paper, or do I kind of dumb it down? Because he was kind of in the middle where I think that passing it to the editorial team and trying to simplify it for everybody would be a good choice. So I believe that is in motion. He's also been working on the app kit. He's also been reviewing EIP 0028, Ergo authentication. That's something that's being discussed and coming together. Looks like there's been a couple of review comments that he's been addressing, and he's working on the remaining tasks in order to get version 5.0 ready to go. So I hope that the marketing team, reads through his article that he put together. I'm sure Morphic is happy to answer any questions that may come up, and hopefully we get something out to the general community that is digestible. Now, the short and sweet of it is it's faster. It's faster script engine, so that means you have faster execution, and it does a better job of predicting size of transactions and blocks. So the benefit of having better, let's say, estimated size is you can theoretically fit more transactions and blocks because you're not overestimating the size. So faster engine, better Tetris playing, let's just call it that. Next we hear from Deadit, Dimitri. Dimitri has been working on front ends across the Ergo ecosystem for a while. Looks like he's been working on the new website. He's put together a design for the Explorer's main page and front end. Sigmaverse is getting a facelift. I've seen the at least a picture of the facelift, and it's looking pretty good. Looks like that's been reviewed and deployed. Looks like he's also working with Glasgow and setting up a new admin panel in Sigmaverse, and then he will transfer it. So hopefully that's done at this point. I'm not sure. I need to look into it. But it's basically we're going through a kind of redesign. The main Ergo platform website was put together when Ergo kind of first came out. I've looked into the new build, and it's pretty big upgrade, in my opinion. It's pretty fancy, flashy. A lot of engagement for new people coming on versus right now it requires more reading and depth and focus, and it's better to have something that's a little bit more organized and sexy, and you can dive into content really quick. All right, we got an update from Jay, the real Ergo god. He's putting together Night Owl Casino. I believe that's going to be a project in the upcoming hackathon. It looks like they have released the light paper. They've opened their communities and social media. They're testing a bot for Telegram and Discord. They have a UI mock-up that came out this week, I believe. It's pretty nice. And it looks like they're putting together a team. So hopefully those of you that are willing to speculate and gamble, you get a nice hub to do that. I do actually believe part of their build is to allow users the ability to be the house, where you can actually use your own tokens as the house's liquidity. And I believe they're going to shoot for being provably fair, where there's open, transparent odds in all of their games, which, on one side says, okay, well, the gambler then knows their odds, right? And the house also has some form of idea what their returns will be over time. So it'll be interesting to watch that come together. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would love to, play blackjack or poker or other different casino games, and hopefully win Erg, right? Some people pretty lucky, other people not so much. Me, it depends on the day. Next we hear from Ilya. He is working on mempool tracking support for the ErgoDex off-chain bots. I believe Ilya and Alex are also starting to explore the idea of layer 2 solutions for ErgoDex. What does that look like? What is the best path? And once that's discovered, then it's a matter of speccing it and then building it. So, that's something that I know ErgoDex, along with building on Ergo and also building on Cardano and building their own off-chain bots and building their own tooling, is looking into layer 2 solutions. It's a busy team, pretty impressive project. I'm excited to see what comes out of the layer 2 research. All right, next we hear from Cheese Enthusiast. That's one of my favorite usernames. You're not going to forget that one. Cheese Enthusiast has been working on Proof of Vote, which is the voting system using governance tokens. It looks like it's working well on testnet, and they're working on implementing the core protocol, which will allow everyone to vote to smart contracts. Looks like they're also doing some front-end testing, and they're working with the dApp connector. I know Nautilus and Captain Nemo have been providing some private testing to kind of help applications as they build support dApp connectors. Now, I hope over time they also get ErgoPay support. That would be nice to get both the light browser wallets and mobile wallets integrated into pretty much everything. And who knows, maybe in time we'll actually see some guides come out for both that can be open source and used by developers, based on the experience of apps that have gone through integration. That would be nice, and it kind of speeds up the process. It looks like they're continuing to work on general upgrades to the smart pool and improve the capabilities and share tracking and token distributions. Looks like there's a few ideas on how to allow investors and miners to mutually benefit each other. It looks like the goal is to allow investors to use their capital to help miners and indirectly aid in the security of the network while gaining interest or fees. You could call that synthetic staking. Yeah, there's a lot of interest there. I've actually seen that proposed a couple ways. One is kind of like the rentable hash rate, where you can usually go online and find sites that nice hash is the biggest one. Luckily for us, they don't support Ergo yet because we're too small, and that could create some security risks. But there are other alternatives where you can kind of rent a miner's GPU for a period of time. Maybe it would be neat to set that up via smart contract. I know there's also been at least theory of creating like a mining bond where you pay up front and you get a return for a period of time, and oftentimes that's more extended, where let's say somebody fractionalized their big farm and said, okay, well, we're going to sell 36-month contracts to users, give them an NFT, and track that and send payment to the wallet that holds that NFT. There's a lot of interesting concepts out there in terms of how to get miners and investors to work together. A lot of them right now are kind of off-chain. They would be really cool to see that come about via smart contract. So I hope Cheese Enthusiast figures that out. What's best for GetBlok. It looks like All Cloudy is focused on regional surveying. They've been doing a really good job of getting servers all around the world to try to get everybody, optimal connectivity. And it looks like they're working on other non-mining pool aspects of GetBlok. Rob has been working with the proof of vote concept in preparation for voting. I can't say that by the time this comes out, voting may have already begun. So if you're a part of GetBlok, pay attention to that, because unfortunately I don't know at the moment. And yeah, I did the Ergo Pulse episode with GetBlok. I think that's going to be a pretty good one. It looks like they're also putting together a community ambassador program, trying to engage with miners and, you know, really get miners to understand, okay, well, what does that look like when miners have representation and control and, you know, kind of can direct the development of a mining pool versus be a more passive participant. It's really neat to see. And it looks like they've created the layout and framework for the voting UI. Next, we hear from MHS. You know, they're still in the final stages of the wormhole bridge. Now, those of you that were paying attention this week, that was a major hack that happened. You know, one of the larger ones that's occurred. Essentially, it happened on, I believe, Solana. Someone exploited the wormhole contract by getting around the multi-sig requirements, and looks like they took off with a lot of ETH. So I'm sure that's something that is being followed and tracked, and you know, I'm sure by now it's been patched. And oftentimes, you know, it's like a post-mortem observing, understanding, improving. I do think that that particular exploit may have been very Solana specific. So, you know, to some degree, that's a good thing. Now, we were initially planning of building the wormhole to Solana first. I'm sure that this has put some pause and additional, let's say, additional review on that particular bridge. Now, one thing to look at is that wormhole is not just on Solana. There are also other chains that it connects with that haven't had that same type of exploit. So that doesn't necessarily mean take it off the table. It just means they need to patch the Solana side before that's something that we want to potentially expose anybody or create any risks about. So we'll see. I would say that's not something that's off the table. It's just kind of in a holding pattern until we learn more. I'm sure we'll get an update next week from MHS and figure out what the next best step is. Now, one thing to note is Susy, which is the particular type of bridge that we're building, does use the wormhole core. It also uses oracles as an additional mechanism to try to offset any type of exploit. So, you know, I'm not even sure that Susy itself would have been at risk, but I can't say that for sure because, to be honest, I only know at this point, you know, somebody spoofed multi-sig. I haven't really looked into the hack. Next, we hear from LGD talking about GuapSwap, which that just rolls off the tongue. GuapSwap. Looks like they've made a high-level protocol spec EIP6 design for the proxy contract, swap contract, and the refund contract. It looks like Cheese Enthusiast has been helping him out. It looks like he's also learning Scala and been playing around with the app kit. And the aim is to have ErgoScript contracts written before ErgoHack 3. So GuapSwap definitely is going to probably get the medal for you know, one of the better names. Now, I do also know that there was a project that I saw on Twitter this week. It looks like there's going to be a new alternative auction house that's going to come in to ErgoHack 3 and try to build. You know, as I was discussing earlier, the current auction house, while, you know, it does work, we do have this issue with NFTs that are fake. You know, they're FNFTs, fake NFTs. We like the ENFTs, the Ergo NFTs. So hopefully we see the auction house come into, let's say, a more open market with a new competitor after ErgoHack 3. That's something to pay attention to. I believe that's Hazy that's putting that together. Next we hear from Anon Real. Said sorry for the delay for ErgoTeam. He's working on writing a detailed description of how the method works. which will be published soon. It's been taking a lot of time since some holes were found in the method, and then you have to patch that, find a way to address it. It looks like the Ergo auction house is already integrated with the backend, which should make the website much faster than the current version. Looks like they're adding some new features and improving stuff, which will be easier with the new backend of the auction house. Testing is being done, and the next step is artist verification and collections, which that's perfect. That's really what we need to see. It's going to be good to have alternatives. So, hopefully we get 2 alternatives with artist verification, and that kind of creates an extra barrier layer of assurance for users that right now are a little bit apprehensive because there's a lot of garbage on the current auction house, unfortunately. All right, next we're going to hear from Frosty. It looks like anetaBTC has just finished their V1 analytics page, thanks to Curbside Profit for his guidance. The official landing page is about 85% done, along with the initial documentation. So those of you that are interested in the documentation, please take a look. For the backend, they've recently integrated Yoroi successfully with the sample Ergo dApp, and are preparing to integrate on the actual front end. That's great to hear. It looks like they are also running interlay wrapping protocol and working to port Ergo with the same concepts. Looks like we'll get more updates in the future. Next we hear from greenhat. Looks like he has everything ready for the NIPoPoW path except the node peer discovery. Looks like we're going to get more of a write-up and example of that scenario of payment verification, and looks like we're going to get some workflow data, so that's really exciting to see. NIPoPoWs are kind of soon to be born on the Ergo ecosystem, and that's been something that Alex has had in his mind for a long time, so really happy to see that roll out, and then get implemented, and we start to see SPV ultralight clients and payment verification in action. That'd be amazing.